Okay, in this short video, I'm going to show you how to get authenticated through to the AppDynamics API using a token so that you can start building and developing code to this API immediately. When we log into our SaaS environment, we're going to select the gear, go to Administration, and I have on the API Clients tab added in an account. This happens to be a Gmail account, so anything with an email will work. And I'm going to go ahead, and I already granted this the account owner role. So again, to add an account, you just hit the plus sign, and I've already added it. So you can add the roles here, and it needs to have the account owner role. Let's go ahead, and we're going to generate a secret. So we're going to hit generate secret. And as you can see, the secret is visible. We hit copy, and very important, save. Now we see it saved successfully. Let's go enter that in our vault. So here in my vault, I'm going to AppD secret, edit secret, and I'm going to just update the secret and save. Perfect. Okay. So now what we're going to do is we are ready to programmatically have our task, which is getting the secret passed in from the vault via our build container, thanks to our integration with Concourse. When we run our command, it should, our task, what it's going to do, if it's going to call down our build container, it's an ephemeral build container, it's going to copy up our code, and it succeeded. It actually printed out our token here for us. Probably, before we go to production, we want to hide that, but it was successful. But what just happened here? Well, again, we were able to build code extremely fast using an ephemeral OCI build container. Let's just review that one more time. So when we run our task file, it's a single command. What it's doing is it's launching our get token task. This is actually pulling down from Docker Hub our curated AppDynamics OCI build container. This is so that you don't have to install any libraries locally. In the lab, we have people running different versions of Mac, Windows, different versions of Ubuntu, like Red Hat, and or of Linux, like Red Hat, Ubuntu, and so forth. And it is just too laborious to have everybody set up virtual Python environments and have all the right libraries. All you need to do to participate in this lab and build your code is to install the fly command. And everything is done on these ephemeral build containers. So you just need to worry about focusing on your code. And if you want to take and do this at home, we have actually published all of the build container Docker files in a public repo as well. You can immediately pull the image and you can see them here. So if I were to go down and look at one of these build containers, it's just a Docker file. Each one is different. Now each product in FSO Suite requires different libraries and modules and so forth. So we have built, tested, curated OCI build containers, so you don't have to do this, and we're giving them to you. And you can also, if you like, add on other tools. So since we're integrated in Vault in this lab, we've added on HashiCorp Vault. We're also in AWS, so we've added on AWS CLI, and we've run a few of our handy-dandy Python modules that we like to use. So this is what your build container is made from. And what else? So what else happens? So once we launch our task, gets the build container, it actually copies up our local code directory. So if I were to look in here in lab tasks, in AppDynamics, AppD API, Auth, input, it's actually copying up this entire directory onto the ephemeral build container. And in the parameters, it's going to pass in some authentication information into the environmental variables. It's going to inject them in there into the build container. And the mechanism by which this occurs is via our integration with a Vault and Concourse. So this is really nice because we don't have to give anybody any credentials. And in fact, if you were using this in your own company, you could have teams of hundreds or thousands or dozens of developers and not have to give them any credentials because everything is passed in, injected programmatically into their code. All we need to do is write code and make sure that we're parameterizing everything. Okay, so it calls this this script. Let's take a look at it. Again, this is just doing some calling out of our environmental variables, and then it's going in and it's getting that AppD secret that we just saved to our Vault. It's exporting it into an environmental variable that'll get passed into our ephemeral build container, and it launches our Python script. So let's take a look at our Python script. Our Python script, very standard. We're not really using any special modules. We're doing this whole thing with Python requests, which is a very stable Python module. We're not using HTTPS just in the lab, so we're going to disable our URL-v3 warnings. And here is where Python is getting that secret from our Vault, passed in, injected into the build container using an environmental variable. So Python's calling it. And then it's just very simply going out and we're following the online documentation for AppD in regards to how to send a request to their API. So we're specifying, first of all, we're calling our Vault, right? And we're using the secret. And then what we're doing is we're taking that and we are calling the AppD API to get an OAuth token, writing it to our Vault, and then we're making it, going to make it available in subsequent code. So this is all automated. All right, perfect. So now let's go ahead and use our token. And by the way, we can combine these tasks, but we're doing them separate right now just to teach what's going on. So let's go ahead, and now that we have the token written programmatically into our Vault, and let me just bring it up for you and show you very quickly. It's right here. So we just programmatically generated this from the AppD API and we wrote it to our Vault. And now we're going to call it in our code. And we're going to get a list from the API of some machine agents. So we're going to make a really simple query. So let's go ahead and run the next task, which is the use token task. Use token task here. So if you're using IntelliJ, you just right click, copy path reference, file name. You can backspace over this and hit paste. All right, hit go. All right, now it's going to run really fast this time because our build container is cached. The first time we run a build task, it's a little bit slow because it builds the container from scratch. But as long as the actual container doesn't change, the Docker file, the hash on that image, it's cached and it's very, very fast. So look, our code executed, it worked, it was really fast, it's reusable. Let's just see what happened here. So our use token task, right? Called the same build container, called our script, copied up our scripts onto the container, and injected in some parameters from the Vault. Okay, it executed our script. The script went out to the Vault, and it got that token, that temporary token, set it as an environmental variable, injected it into our build container. Now our Python script executed using requests. This is just using Python requests. It's very, very simple. So what did it do? Okay, called in the environmental variable AppD auth token, which is that we put it to a string because that's the way the AppD API wants it. And then it essentially is going out and authenticating with that token, calling the AppD API to get a list of agents, and it's passing it back to us. and we're printing out the response in text and JSON. And that's exactly what we saw here. So this is another example of how we can use OCI build container to very quickly build, execute, test our code. And we can be sure now this code pass. I'm happy with it. I'm going to do a git add, a git commit -m, and I'm going to say tested in task, getting the AppD ephemeral OAuth token from Vault and using it to run an API query. Oops, I forgot to, there we go. And I'm going to push it. Okay. So in this method, I'm going to work through all of my coding tasks for the day. So the workflow is I test it in the build container. I iterate on it, fix any errors. When it passes, I git commit, or git add, git commit, get pushed into my repo with a comment, and then I move on to the next task. Now, when I have completed all my tasks, probably what I would do in my work environment is then build it in my pipeline. Now, we're not going to get into that now. We'll get into that more towards the end of the lab. It's more of an advanced topic. But in this manner, I can ensure that everything that I have tested out that is working today should theoretically build okay in my pipeline because I'm using the exact same OCI build container as well. After it successfully builds in my pipeline, I am going to move it through all my different environments, and when it gets to production, it's going to pass. And I know that because I am running all of my development on the same OCI build containers that are currently in production. All right, so next we're going to move on to using this same methodology. Now that we're authenticated and we're programmatically authenticated, we can run as many API bulk requests as we like against this API. So please stay tuned.